Well, hello there, traveller. Coming in from the cold. We've got a nice warm fire going.
Welcome to Hearth and Tome Tavern. Can I pour you a cup of something?
We've also got some wonderful books here if you're interested. After all, there's nothing better than curling up by the fire with a hot drink and a good book.
It's true. We have been reading some great books lately. So why don't we have a seat and let us tell you all about them? This is your warning, as the following episode contains spoilers for this month's book club pick. Hello and welcome to the Hearth and Tome podcast. It's a monthly podcast hosted by me, Eve Handyside. I go by any pronouns.
And me, Phoenix Arden. I use they them pronouns. This is our first ever episode. How exciting. And this month, we're discussing the fantastic, in my opinion, book, Can't Spell Treason Without D by Rebecca Thorne.
I disagree with that statement, so why don't we jump in and discuss?
Let's. So, I guess before we start properly talking about the book, since this is our first episode, we should probably talk a little bit about how we're rating these books for this podcast. So, we're using the call pile system as developed by, I think their name is Book Roast on YouTube, which is basically just a system that like breaks down a book review into a bunch of different categories to give you like a framework to review a book from without having to, you know, like just do it off the top of your head. So, Eve, do you want to explain a little bit about Cawpile?
Cawpile, so fancy, is broken up, is an acronym for different stages of it. So C stands for characters, A for atmosphere and setting, W for writing style, P for plot, I for intrigue, L for logic, and E for enjoyment. And basically you rate each stage and you take an average out of all those stages and it will give you your rating for the entire book.
Yeah. Nice and simple. Most of the categories are fairly self-explanatory. I think the only ones that aren't super obvious maybe are intrigue and logic. So just to sort of clarify a little bit, at least how I've considered them, intrigue to me is like how much I wanted to keep reading the book, like how well the book like grabbed me, you know, like how intrigued I was.
I completely agree. Yeah, I did that as well. I was
and like how
do I? Yeah.
Yeah. Like how curious I am to know what happens next, sort of vibe. And logic. So logic, I guess, is like in a because a lot of the books we're going to be reading are fantasy. So a lot of them will have magic systems. So logic is, does the magic system make sense? Like, is there internal consistency? Or do things happen that don't seem to make sense? You know, it's like, basically, does the book make sense? Yeah. Or can you instantly find, like, holes in, like, the systems of the book? Is the vibe, as far as I'm concerned. So we've separately each rated each category on a scale from 0, I guess, to 10. I think we said we were only using like half numbers, so no quarter ratings. And then I've already worked out my average, and I rounded to the nearest half number, the like average. So we'll get to that, I guess. I guess we should probably like talk about the book, huh? Like what the book is.
Do we want to give our general star rating first?
Ooh, like the average?
Our initial star rating. Yeah, and then we can discuss.
Yeah.
This.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, so the average of all of mine, the Cawpile average for my reviews was an 8.5 out of 10. What was yours?
Oh, mine was a 5.2.
Wow. So right off the bat we have quite the difference.
Yeah. You enjoyed the book much more than I did.
I think that's probably fair to say. And I am curious to see, as we read more books, whether it's going to hold up that, like, one of us, probably me, is going to be more generous, or whether it's just this book.
Or just this book that I was on the fence about.
We'll see.
Quite intense.
I guess. Should we? I guess we should probably like quickly run through like the plot of the book, huh? Just like a quick overview. So it's cozy fantasy. We should start off with that one. It's like it's fantasy, but it's not too dramatic. There's not any like big trauma-y things,
It's not very high stake fantasy. It's very like simple, simplistic.
Mm-hmm.
That's not like a bad thing, but like kind of cozy, low stake.
Yeah, for sure.
For the actual plot, we follow two main characters, Reina and Kianth. That's at least what I called her, because I couldn't figure it out.
I've been calling her like Kianthe, but I don't know.
Kianthe? I kept calling her Kianth. I'm not sure. I need a pronunciation guide, and
Reina and the other one.
And the other one. The girlfriend. They basically left their kind of jobs, so to speak, and opened up a bookshop, tea shop kind of vibe. Reina was guard of the queen, and
she was like one of the queen's like private guards. Yeah,
and Kianth was like an all-powerful wizard or something.
Yeah, she's like the most powerful mage in existence, I think is how she's described on the blurb. She's like the chosen one of mages. And they both sort of leave those jobs. So they'd met and had been like sort of secretly dating before the start of the book. And early on in the book, they make the decision to leave their respective responsibilities and open like a cozy little bookshop tea room thing.
I love the idea of it. It's so cute.
It is, right off the bat. I know you didn't necessarily love the book, but I think we can both agree that the concept is real
fantastic.
good.
I love that. What did you think of the characters?
Should we launch right in? Okay, so
let's just launch right in, because I need to know what you thought of them. Because I have opinions about them.
To be clear for our listeners, I read this book like a month ago, maybe a bit more, and even like you finished the book sort of a couple of weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago. We have not talked about it.
Yeah.
Like, we spend a lot of time together. We have not talked about this book.
We pulled ourselves back. So somehow. This
is the first time that we're like properly getting to discuss.
Yeah, I'm giddy what you think.
So characters, I gave it a 9 out of 10.
Of course you did. Okay.
I thought the characters themselves, I found them really adorable. I found them really interesting. I did dock a point because I thought that they lacked like major character development. I thought there was potential for that that it didn't live up to.
I see you there. I rated it a 4.
A 4?
I rated them a 4. Okay, hear me out. I enjoyed the character relationship. I loved them as a couple. They didn't have any arc together. The characters I wanted to see more of were Gosley and I can't remember their name. The midwife and her husband.
Tarly and Matilde.
Yes, I wanted to see more of them.
I cannot believe I knew that.
Well done. I thought they were more interesting than Kianth and Reina.
I can understand that.
I don't think they explored their relationship very well. It just seemed that everything went so smoothly with them making friends and their whole character. I feel it was a bit too simple for my liking.
Yeah,
they didn't really
I do think that was sort of a downside of the plot starting after they'd already long met. Like, the upside is we get this lovely, like, very domestic relationship between them. But the downside is that we don't see them getting to that point. And they're already there, and
we get flashbacks,
it's a bit of a shame.
But, like, I don't think the flashbacks were enough. I think we had, like, 2 flashbacks of them meeting, and I was like, I need more. I need more with that. But, like, even though I say I rated it a 4, I did enjoy like one particular thing. Is Reina is a badass character. I loved like when in the beginning when they get like where the tea shop is, when they just skip over the fact that Rhaena beat them all up.
Yeah.
They were just like, we have this place already. Rhaena killed them. Good for them. That's the only like part of their character I enjoyed.
See, I get that. I also particularly really liked Keanthe's love of puns. I think I kind of relate to Keanthe in a lot of ways in terms of like how she interacts with her romantic partner, because I'm very similar with my partner. I will constantly be making sort of puns and jokes and stuff, and that aspect of the relationship I connected to. But I can understand what you mean. I can understand why, from like the point of view of them not having had a lot of development, it does make them,
I was waiting for more.
I guess, less good than they could have been.
I was waiting for like arguments or like turning points with their like relationship and stuff, but it just didn't really happen.
Because there is at one point, like, they specifically mentioned that like they have this system where if one of them says that they need to talk about something, the other one just like sits there and listens until the other one says they're done, which is great, but it would have been nice to see
I thought that was really
something
cute.
happen like before that system, or to see them develop that system instead of just it's already in place and they have no conflict.
Exactly.
I get that. I do understand that. And I agree with you that the side characters were fantastic.
The side characters are so good.
Really,
I
good.
wanted, what was it, the yarn or something? Was it yarn? And like,
I don't know how that one's pronounced, but their name's Feo, I think, isn't it? Feo. Feo, I don't know. Yeah, they had a really cute thing
Theo
going.
and Wylan. I wanted so much more of them. Mm-hmm. I wanted them so bad. Because just at the end, you assume they're in a relationship, and I was just like, I want more of their romance, please.
Yeah.
I was like, there was like a chapter where like they're away in like a dungeon searching for something. And I was like, you could slot in a chapter of them, like, in there, conversing. But no, I wanted more of the side characters.
I think that is sort of a theme. I would also like, I think it would be really cool to have like maybe like a little novella or something that is set before this, that sets up more of Rhaena and Keanthe's backstory. And I would also love some like stories from the points of view of like other characters, like Matilda and Tarly, or Fio and Wylan, or Gosley. Just like, because I think the Rebecca Thorne has done a pretty good job of like making the other characters feel really interesting. And there's just like the only lacking part is the development of Rhaena and Keanthe's relationship. So it'd be really interesting to get to explore more of that sort of stuff.
I hope their relationship kind of grows in the second book, but like I don't know if I'll pick it up as of yet.
So I have already read book 2, and I will not spoil anything at all. That's it. I'm not telling you anything about it. I do think that you would probably enjoy book 2 a bit more.
Okay, I'm on the fence. Maybe I'll when I need a cozy one, I'll come back to it. But like, moving on to like atmosphere and setting.
Yeah, so I gave it a 10.
Yeah.
I thought the vibes were really good. Like purely on the atmosphere, the vibes, the setting. I think it was really well built. Right, like I think the world was quite cool. I think the town that they end up living in was quite cool. Tawny, that's what it's called. I really liked the like development of the setting of their bookshop. And there's like some nice like geopolitical stuff going on in the background that I thought went quite well. So I thought the atmosphere was real strong.
I thought it was good too. It's one of my second highest rated. Wow. It's got 6.
A 6?
It's a 6.
Oh.
I think it could have been added to in some areas.
Do you know, my lowest score for this book is a 6.
Oh my gosh. It's my second highest rating. Oh my gosh. I loved most of it. I liked the exploration of like the political stuff, going between countries and everything. That was a highlight for me. I love fantasy politics. I will constantly rave about fantasy politics all the long day. But I wanted more of the dragon country. We got to see absolutely none of that.
Yeah.
We didn't see much of the Seeing
Yeah.
Stone. Was it the Seeing Stone? Something like that. Stone that
The-
Cleanthes are connected to.
The stone of seeing.
Yeah.
I think is what it's called. Yes, which is like the source of Chianti's power.
Yeah. I wanted more of that. Otherwise, I think the atmosphere was really, really strong. It felt really interweaved and interconnected. Yeah, I don't know how otherwise best to describe it, because it was... There is some letdowns for me, but I still thought it was pretty well built.
I think, like, when you... Obviously, like, the book is cozy fantasy, right? And I think it does a really good job of feeling like cozy fantasy.
Yeah.
And so that's why I gave it such a high score in the atmospheres, because I think it does a really good job of feeling like a cozy fantasy. It's clearly fantasy. It's like, you know, the vibes are just
The vibes are
so
there.
good. I'm making hand gestures that nobody can see, but
It felt that the setting, I don't know, was too overly... I don't think overly explained is the right word here, but like, just felt like, oh, they're exploring this for this long? Come on, guys, move along. We get it. Come on. But I don't know, there was just something not sitting right with me with their whole...
yeah, I can see that. And I guess that sort of handily, good job, Eve, ties nicely into the next category, which is writing style.
I'm going to pat myself on the back for that one.
You should. Writing style was my lowest score for this
Really?
book.
It was my highest.
Interesting.
Okay, fantastic.
So I thought the writing was like fine. Like, I don't think it was bad. But I did pick up on some little niggles, some little like grammar stuff that I didn't love.
Yeah.
And there was one thing in particular, and I was hoping you could search for something, because you read the ebook.
I did read the ebook.
I was hoping you could go into the ebook and like go into the search function and just search for the phrase "pinched the bridge of."
Oh, that was used so much.
Because there were... I didn't count because I was reading it in paperback and I couldn't be bothered going back and counting. But there were so many times where any character would pinch the bridge of their nose. And fair enough, like once or twice, but it came up far too many times for my liking in the space of like a few hundred pages.
I've just looked up the word pinched. 28 used 28 pinched bridge of nose from initial search.
Wow. So I didn't think it was going to be quite that
Yeah.
high. I'll be
Neither did
honest.
I.
I figured it was like maybe early double digits. But it was just something that the more I read the book, the more I was like, why is this person pinching the bridge of their nose? Again. Like, yes, people do it a lot in real life, but when you're writing a book, you don't need to say it every time.
Why do you keep doing it?
And
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely no offense whatsoever to people who self-publish, but I do think this is a downside of self-publishing, is you don't have a formal professional editor to go in and point out things like this. And I kind of suspect if this had been, like, formally published by a publishing house, and they'd had an actual editor, we wouldn't have had 28 times where somebody pinches the bridge of their
That's
nose.
insane. I didn't think it would be that high.
So it lost a lot of points on the writing style because of that. And again, no spoilers for book 2, but it keeps happening.
I'll get the ebook if I read the second one and do the same thing. Because
I didn't think it was going to be that high.
yeah, I rated the writing style a 7.
Did I say that I gave it a 6? I can't remember if I
Was it
said,
6?
but
Oh,
it was
wow,
a 6.
okay. So not much difference there in rating, much, but like...
No, but 6 was my lowest.
I think my high point with the writing style was the dialogue.
The dialogue felt really good.
The dialogue was fantastic. They had really good dynamics with each other, and I think that's what I focused on, because a lot of the time I got a little bit bored with some of the long-winded sentences, so I kind of skipped along sometimes to the dialogue, because it was just kind of a high point, as well as kind of like they had good puns and jokes, and that kind of it made me giggle. Okay,
Yeah.
their puns
think-
made me giggle.
This is one of those things where, like, I filtered the dialogue stuff under characters, and that's part of why characters was such a high score,
Yeah.
but I do think that the dialogue in this
Real
book is
good.
real good.
It's real good. That could move us all into plot because I don't think I have much else to say about writing style.
Yeah, I've said the thing I needed to say, which was, please, Rebecca Thorne, if you're listening, which you probably aren't, please stop using the phrase "pinched the bridge of their nose."
Please
That
stop
many times.
pinching your nose. Please.
It made me start pinching the bridge of my nose while reading it because I was like, oh no, not again. 28 is too many times.
That's too many.
So it did. That was my issue with the writing style primarily. It was, and like I say, I think that's just one of those things. If you have an editor, like a professional formal editor, they'll pick up on this sort of stuff and be like, you can take some of these out.
You can do other things to show emotion.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah. So yeah, plot. We're on to the P of Cawpile already. I gave it a 7 for plot.
I gave it a 5.
So for plot, I really liked the setup of the plot. Like, I liked that we had this whole thing where obviously they go and open their bookshop, and there's also, particularly from Rhaena's side, there's this background with the queen that she used to serve, who is known for being particularly like cruel and vindictive. And Rhaena and Chianthe throughout the book are very aware that at any time the queen, who has spies everywhere, could come for them and like come and try and take Rhaena away again.
The threat was good. The threat level.
That threat was great, and that setup of that was great. But I felt like the solution that they came up with to that was a bit of a letdown.
I was so angry at it.
It felt too easy. And they sort of say, like, it's not, like, a final solution, it will hold her for a little while. But, like, their solution is basically that Rhaena tells the queen that she's lying about being in love with Chianthe to get Chianthe to, like, support the queen. And the queen's like, okay, that sounds great, and lets them go.
They immediately believe it. Like, no.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have believed that, especially if they've been away for months and suddenly, and that they've, you know, there's probably hints that they've been in a relationship while at the Queen's Palace.
There's definitely
hints. When Rhaena had that whole injury attack, and then suddenly Chianthe was there.
Because there's this,
like,
that sort of, like, they met because Chianthe, as the, what's her name, what's her title, it's like the Arcandor or something.
Yeah.
As this, like, chosen one mage, she is involved in, like, diplomacy stuff, I guess, and has, like, visited the Queen's Palace before, and that's how they initially met. And so there is definitely the implication, at least, that they, like, spent time together doing things during those visits from Chianthe.
Exactly.
So how nobody noticed, I really don't know.
I don't know. The Rhaena's, don't want to say friend, because he was a bit horrible. But, her colleague. Yeah. How the hell he didn't notice?
Yeah, I've also forgotten his name.
Men not noticing.
Remember what his name was.
I don't know. I kind of forgot he existed until the end of
Ven. His name's Ven.
Oh.
Yeah, because he has this whole thing where he, like, has a creepy infatuation with Rhaena and keeps, like, asking her out. And she repeatedly is like, no, I'm interested in women.
Yeah, and he just doesn't... Come on.
Yeah, and then he's the one who eventually takes her back to the castle, and then she does the whole I'm lying to Chianthe thing. And to me, I know that it's cozy fantasy, right? And I know it's supposed to be low stakes, but that to me was such an underwhelming payoff.
I was so disappointed. Oh my gosh. It was like so much build up as well, because like I felt a lot of the book was taking too long. It was like beginning, cute. Ending, fine. Middle, don't remember a thing that happened. Because there was like no really like a lot of stakes in the middle of the book. It just kind of felt like there was nothing going on. Apart from, you know, like the dragon attack. That was like one of the big climaxes, and I was like, fine.
And like, it's cozy fantasy, it's meant to be low stakes, but low stakes doesn't mean no stakes. It doesn't mean nothing happens.
Yeah, I just felt there was nothing really to do.
And again, without spoiling anything, I will say that book 2 improves on that front particularly. There is much more that happens in book 2, but I do feel like this book, you could have taken a fair chunk of stuff out, and it would have come out better.
I really liked the whole dragon egg mystery. I
Yes.
wish it was built on more, because Rhaena and Kianth didn't care about it, and I wish they did.
They sort of like hand wave it away because Chianthe makes a deal with the dragons that they won't attack the town where the tea shop is, and in return she will help them find some eggs that got stolen like 30 years ago. And then almost immediately Chianthe and Rhaena are like, it's fine, dragons live for ages, they're not gonna like check up on us, we've got time to do that, which is understandable, but it feels weird to like set up a plot hook and then immediately take it away.
I was like, come on, we need to get these dragon eggs. Oh, you're going to the castle. Oh, you're doing this thing. You're doing another thing. Where are the dragon eggs?
And again, the dragon eggs thing I think is like intended to be the thing that ties, because we know that this is the first book of a trilogy. The dragon eggs search is like a center point of book 2, and I think is intended to be sort of the overarching story between the three. But I feel like there were ways to signpost towards that in this book, instead of just going, it's fine, they won't come after us for ages, we don't need to search for those eggs yet. When it was such like an intriguing mystery, like it was so interesting right off the bat, and then she just drops it.
It was right there and just didn't pick up on it. Like, clue it in, but don't give like too high like intrigue as soon as it's introduced, because that's all your readers will care about. That's all I wanted to know about. That really goes really well into the intrigue bit next, because
it does. Yet again, we've flawlessly segued.
Perfectly. Flawless. This is one of my... It's similar to my characters that I also rated this a 4, because I
also rated it the same as characters and gave it a 9.
Oh, goddamn. I'm going to start this up because I wanted to DNF this book. Which I never told you that.
No,
and
you
I was
did
just
not.
like, I wanted to DNF it, not even when I got halfway through it, because I didn't care at all. Usually the characters will like pull you in and like you want to like see where all these people are going. They had an established relationship, which kind of killed all intrigue for character kind of development for me anyway, because I like it when two characters meet. Come together, even if they knew each other in the past. I thought that would have been better if they were like, oh my gosh, hello.
Yeah.
Well, again, if they met again for the first time in a while.
Yeah.
And then the whole dragon egg mystery, I was like, this is absolutely going nowhere. Why are we doing all this other stuff if there's a mystery here? Do that. That kind of killed it for me a bit.
I think what worked in this book's favour for me was that I read it, or at least the majority of it, in like one 3-hour sitting.
Yeah.
I think if I'd been reading this over the course of multiple days, like reading a bit at a time, it would not have hooked me as well as it did.
Yeah. I think it took me about a week and a half, because I just couldn't keep going.
Yeah. I will say, like, again, it loses point because I wasn't desperate to know what would happen next.
Yeah.
Because I knew what was going to happen next. They were going to continue to be fine.
There wasn't really much stakes with the relationship.
It didn't feel like any of the like setup hooks that could have been threatening. It didn't feel like any of them felt threatening beyond the point at which they were introduced, because they were either quickly dispatched or just like there was no reason to think that they would continue to be a threat.
Yeah.
Beyond just characters saying like, "Oh, the Queen could find us at any time." So I think because I read it all in one set, or like the majority of it, like I'd sort of picked up, read a bit, put it down, and then I read it I think I finished the book. I just like read it all in one sitting, and I think that helped a lot, because it doesn't have a lot going on for a significant part of the book. And I can totally understand why if you're like picking it up and putting it down because you're doing other things.
Yeah. I was reading 3 other books while I was reading this.
That'll do it.
Yeah, that'll do it. I was reading, because like it was around my birthday time, so you'd given me the Yellowface arc, so I was reading Yellowface by R.F. Kuang the same time I was reading this, and all I wanted to do was read Yellowface because it was so good. I
That is
rated
unfortunate,
Yellowface
yeah.
a 5 stars, and it just, why I just kept picking up and putting this book back down. So that might have had an effect because I loved that book so much compared to this. So probably why I rated it so low.
So shall we move on to logic then?
Yes.
So I gave it an 8.
Oh, fuck. Okay.
I thought that the magic system was fairly sound, right? Like, I liked the like... So, Chianthe is the Arkandor, and she's, like, the most powerful elemental mage, but there's also, like, alchemy magic that's, like, around and that's sort of mentioned, and then dragons have their own type of magic. And I feel like, in terms of, like, internal consistency, it did pretty well. Like, I don't feel like there were moments where I was like, that doesn't make sense according to the rules you've already set up. But it did lose logic points because, again, we were told repeatedly that the queen was, like, vindictive and cruel, and...
Look how evil she is.
And then that wasn't followed up on, and to me, that felt like a failure to like, follow the rules that they'd already set up. Just in terms of, like, the rules of this character are, she's coming for them, but then that doesn't happen until right near the end of the book.
Exactly.
So it loses logic points for that.
I rated logic a 6, which is fairly high in this. Because I loved the magic system. I thought it was really well done. I loved the whole thing with Chianthe being connected to the stone. I thought that was really interesting. How she can only use that ley lines have an effect on her magic as well. That she can absorb different types of magic. That was so fun. Loved that.
I really liked that bit where, after making this deal with the dragons, she, like, absorbs some dragon magic, and it makes her sick because she's not built to use dragon magic.
Yeah.
And it says, like, explicitly, like, most mages, if they tried to absorb dragon magic, they would just die. And the only reason she even comes close to surviving, the only reason she survives is because she's the Arkandor, and she's, like, the chosen one. So I did think that was really interesting, yeah.
But, like, okay, this loses points because I hate the trope of the chosen one.
Yes.
I absolutely hate it because suddenly she's chosen to be this high magical being, and I'm just like, okay, great. And?
Yeah.
What's the drawbacks of being this all-powerful mage?
I agree.
Like, she can use all this different type of magic, but it doesn't... I like when... I don't know. I like that it was like ball magic, so she couldn't use it continuously. I liked that. But I just felt there wasn't enough explanation of how she used the magic.
Yeah, and there also was never really much in the way of downside. Like, occasionally it was referenced that she would... like, be a bit low on magic, and that the ley line running through the town where they were living was particularly weak, so she couldn't, like, use as much magic as she would like. But there's also moments where it talks, where she, like, thinks about how the stone could technically just, like, stop her from doing things, or, like, make her go and do something else, and then that never gets followed up on.
Like, I think it only happens once, and then to do with unicorns or something?
Yeah, and even then it's just like the stone, like, basically, like, pings her a warning, like, hey, there's a disaster happening, can you go help?
I just took that as like a fantasy text message.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. It's like a little emergency warning system of, like, wee woo, wee woo.
You need to go now.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah, I would have liked more exploration of her relationship and connection to the stone.
As well as, like, the other mages.
Sure.
I wanted more. Because, like, I wanted to see more of the kind of... Because she was basically alone a lot of her childhood because she was the Arkandor. But we never saw, like, her, like, big relationships with, like, the elder mages and stuff. That was never explored. Or, like, flashbacks to her childhood or anything.
It's not made super clear, I don't think, unless I forgot, when she became the Arkandor, like, in terms of what age she was. But I think the implication is she was fairly young.
Yeah, I think it was, like, 10 or something. But even then, that feels a bit old to realise.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Again, I will say, Book 2 improves on this.
Okay, good.
There is a bit more stuff about her feelings around being the Arkandor, and about her feelings regarding the stone, and her interactions with other mages. So it's better on that front. But But that said, I know I've like repeatedly been like, book 2 improves on this. It shouldn't take until book 2.
It shouldn't.
That's the issue.
Yeah. I just wish there was more in-depth discussion into the stone. That was a huge gripe for me. It just fell back too much. And I think that kind of brings us into the last call pile list and right into enjoyment. What did you rate enjoyment?
Enjoyment indeed. A 10. I really, really enjoyed reading this book. Like, just on the purest level, just enjoyment, like taking everything else out, just how much fun I had reading it, it was a 10. Like, I laughed repeatedly. Like I said, like, I picked it up and just, like, absorbed most of it in the space of, like, 3 or 4 hours, I think. I had a lot of fun reading the book. I suspect the opposite is probably true for you.
Okay, this is not my lowest rated section, which I was surprised by. I took a whole while deciding how much I enjoyed this, because I wanted to DNF it. I wanted to, but then I just I did laugh at some point, so I rated it a 5. I was just like, I'm going in the middle. I'm going on the fence, because I was like, it was fine for me, but I think there's other things that I would enjoy more. It just wasn't all there for me, unfortunately. Take it you've enjoyed the sequel, hopefully, maybe?
I did. I would say I enjoyed the sequel even more.
Oh wow, okay.
And I know that sounds silly, given that I gave this one a 10, but keep in mind I gave this a 10 before I'd read the sequel.
Yes, this is true.
So I think, like, if I was to go back to these ratings, knowing what I know from the sequel, I think a lot of these numbers would be lower. But I didn't want to do that because I wanted to just base this review off of just the experience of reading this book. So I think, like, in relation to book 2, it would score lower. And I do think that a lot of the gripes you understandably had with this one are lessened. There are less of that in book 2. But I also totally understand why coming out of this you wouldn't necessarily immediately want to read book 2.
I didn't really want to pick it up at all after I'd finished it. I'm now on the fence about it since you've been like, it was actually better. So like, I'm almost there, but like, we'll see if I pick up the second one. Unless it's going to be another book club pick. I don't think I will.
I don't think we will do another book club pick of book 2. I think we're generally probably better sticking with like firsts in a series unless we really, really love the series, which you might happen come like October, maybe?
October time. Might be something exciting coming out in October.
We fucking hope.
We're so hopeful. Please.
Please.
But I do think there is a lot of strong connections with this book to other books that I think I made a whole list of books that I think other people would enjoy outside of this. So like things like TJ Clune, I think people would really enjoy.
Absolutely.
Legends and Lattes.
I mean, Legends and Lattes is
impact.
the obvious one, isn't it?
Yeah. That's the kind of like groundwork, and they even put it in the acknowledgements that they took a lot of inspiration from Legends and Lattes, and I see.
Yeah,
that.
I would.
Really good.
If you've read this book and not read Legends and Lattes, I will just say Legends and Lattes is this but better.
Yes, dialed to 11. I loved Legends and Lattes.
We really love Legends and Lattes. We love Travis Baldry. We can't wait for book 2 of that one.
Travis, please, just
please.
We're so excited. I just want book 2 now. Have you read any like Cemetery Boys? I forget. Aidan Thomas.
Yes, Aidan Thomas. I love Aidan Thomas books.
People who read this and like this would love Cemetery Boys. I haven't read their other book, but Cemetery Boys.
I would agree.
I tore through that in a day. I loved it. I think.
Cemetery Boys, I really, really loved. Their second book, Lost in the Neverwoods, I didn't love quite so much. And then their newest book, at time of recording, The Sunbearer Trials, I also really loved. But Cemetery Boys, for sure, I think if you like the vibes in this,
you will love
read
that.
Cemetery Boys. And vice versa, if you like Cemetery Boys, you might like this, maybe.
I liked it somewhat. It was fine.
I will also just throw in... Hang on, I'm trying to remember what the book's called.
Search the bookshelf.
by which I mean I'm trying to spot the book so that I can find the title of it on my bookshelves. There it is. Perception Check by Astrid Knight. It's fantasy, but it's not cozy fantasy. There is like mental health discussion in it, so fair warning. But I think based on the like fantasy indie publisher or self-published vibes, if you liked this, read Perception Check. It's real good. I had a lot of fun reading Perception Check, so I would definitely recommend that one, just on that sort of like D&D style fantasy book.
Who doesn't love a D&D style fantasy book? They're just so good.
Exactly. Oh, and just since we mentioned TJ Klune, I would also like to point out that TJ Klune has a new book that comes out this month, as in April 2023, if you're listening to this in the future, which is In the Lives of Puppets, which...
You've read.
Highly recommend. I have read. I read an arc of it a while ago. So yeah, highly recommend that one. It's the same sort of vibe. It's that classic TJ Klune like cozy found family vibe. I just wanted to specifically shout that one out because obviously House in the Cerulean Sea and Under the Whispering Door also incredible, but In the Lives of Puppets is new and therefore more exciting.
Exactly, and you can check it out relatively quickly as to when this episode comes out.
Yeah, I think so. I can't remember exactly when it comes out, but yes, it's definitely April sometime. Yeah, shortly after this episode airs. That was airs and goes live combined.
Yeah, I think that is everything.
I think that's us. Oh, and of course, the last important thing is our book club book for next episode.
Yes!
For May.
I've already started. It's so good.
Which is, Eve?
God Killer by Hannah Kanner? Am I saying that right? Kanner?
I don't know if it's Kanner or Kanner.
It's one of them.
But, yeah. God Killer by Hannah somebody.
I am having the time of my life already. I'm only 20 pages on already, which I'm excited by. It's all about gods and people getting revenge on gods.
Yeah.
And it's
about
so
somebody who
good so
kills
far.
gods, hence the title.
No way. God Killer kills gods.
I know. I would also say that the hardback of God Killer is real pretty. Has lovely end papers. It's gorgeous.
It is gorgeous. And it's short as well, which is also a plus.
Yeah, it's like
It helps with the
300 pages.
Yep, 300 pages.
So yeah, that's what we're going to be discussing next month, which the episode for that should turn up about a month after the episode, this one, that we're recording right now. So yeah, you've got like a month. Go read the book. It probably won't take you long. And then come back and listen to us talk about it. For some reason.
I have brain rot about it because I'm enjoying it so far, so I have high expectations.
Yeah, I've heard really good things.
But anyway, thank you. Thank you for joining us here at the tavern. Phoenix, can you tell our listeners where to find you outside the podcast?
Yes, so you can find me on my personal Twitter, which is at Beans and Fungi. That's beans as in beans and fungi as in fungi. And you can also find, I have a book review blog called The Firebirds Bookshelf. You can find that at The Firebirds Bookshelf on Instagram or at Firebirds Books on Twitter, because Twitter has a character limit. So it's different.
Woohoo Twitter.
Yeah.
So great. I don't know how to use it.
And Eve, what about you?
Yeah, you can find me at ERHandyside on Instagram or Phantom_Frog on TikTok. So exciting.
Yeah. And much like Eve says with Twitter, I am with TikTok. I don't understand it.
I don't either.
I don't post on TikTok. TikTok scares me.
It's a scary place. Leave. Run.
Yeah, and make sure, of course, that you follow the podcast on Instagram at Hearth and Tome Pod, and on Twitter at Hearth and Tome, without the pod, because again, Twitter has a character limit. So you can get updates about when episodes go live, as well as like behind the scenes shenanigans and like little bits and pieces of extra content that we decide to make
At some point.
for social media.
So why don't you join us, travellers, here at Hearth and Tome Tavern for future episodes of our book club. Bye!
Bye.
Music used within this episode was Midnight Tale by Kevin MacLeod through incompetech.com. Licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license.